So a guy walks into a bar. The end. Just kidding. Hi, my name is Ethanol, and today I'm gonna draw my life. It all started in a factory where Mama Yeast met Papa Malted Barley, and I was born. I was gonna tell you more about my birth, but I realized it's kinda an awkward topic. Ask your parents how babies are made if you're curious. But I can tell you one thing, my birthplace was very suffocating, because there was no oxygen. Anyways, I have a lot of siblings. Like, a lot. That's us there in our house. At a very young age, we were separated from our parents and moved across the country. We moved into this place called a bar, where our seemingly exciting adventure began. Little did we know, the world we lived in was a cruel place. We soon realized that left and right, houses of alcohol were being consumed by the gods, whole families gone missing, their houses discarded of, sometimes even destroyed. Then, the dreaded day came, when it was our turn to face the death sentence. Our house was picked up by a god, turned upside down, and we were emptied into his mouth. Down his esophagus I went, with the screams of a few of my siblings behind me, as they were being absorbed by the tongue and mucus lining of the throat into the bloodstream. Eventually, we were dropped into the stomach, where about 20% of my siblings were absorbed into the bloodstream through the stomach lining. The rest of us moved on into the duodenum of the small intestine, where we were absorbed into the bloodstream through the tissue lining. The food in the god's digestive tract made it difficult for us to travel through his tissue lining, but we slowly got through anyways. We realized that this was war. In order to survive, we had to fight against the god. Some of my siblings were transported straight into the liver, where they fought in the main war. Since the enzymes in the liver were saturated, I got to be transported around the body, carried by the movement of blood cells. From what I heard, a few of my siblings were carried to the lungs and were released by the god's breath, their volatile molecular bodies evaporating. A few were released through his skin as sweat, and a few were transported into the urinary system and flushed out downstairs. Eventually, I arrived at the brain, where I was tasked with hacking the god's control center. The hacking team did things like impair the god's judgment, make him nauseous, and make him vomit. Our hacking was interrupted suddenly when the flow of blood carried us away from the brain. My siblings disappeared fighting in the liver, which now had unsaturated enzymes, so it was our turn to fight the main battle. After a while of moving, we finally arrived at the infamous liver. This is where the true horrors began. Unlike what I imagined, it was eerily quiet. I was separated from my siblings as we were each taken into a liver cell. In the cytosol, this enzyme guy called alcohol dehydrogenase grabbed and oxidized me, ripping off 2 of my hydrogens and taking their electrons to reduce his friend NAD+ into NADH. This process turned me into something called acetaldehyde. I then got moved into the mitochondrion, where another enzyme guy named aldehyde dehydrogenase grabbed and oxidized me again and turned me into acetate, while reducing another NAD+ into NADH. I was then converted into acetyl coenzyme A and forced into the Krebs cycle, where I was torn apart and turned into carbon dioxide in order to reduce 3 more NAD+ and an FAD+. The 5 NADHs and 1 FADH2 went into the electron transport chain, carrying parts of me with them to create some ATP and some water. In the end, I was released out of the god's body as carbon dioxide and water. This war we are fighting is going to be a long one, spanning years, maybe even decades. However, as long as the god keeps consuming alcohol, then we can keep fighting. The activity of alcohol dehydrogenase leaves the liver tissue vulnerable to damage if there is a lack of vitamin C and vitamin B, since acetaldehydes are highly reactive if not neutralized, and are known to cause cancer. The cytochrome P450 isoenzymes activity produce highly reactive oxygen species, which also contribute to liver tissue damage. Eventually, we will be able to greatly reduce the god's ability to metabolize alcohol by inflicting diseases such as cirrhosis, hepatitis, or cancer. Well, that's the end of my story. And remember, drinking hurts both you and my relatives, so please don't do it. Thanks for watching. I gotta go towards the light now. Bye!